Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You guys saw the title, you guys saw the thumbnail, you know exactly what to expect today. Basically, I had a bunch of nuts and bolts that were down here in this little hole. I couldn't get to them, so I had to run to the store this morning and grab this little tool called a magnet on a stick. I kept losing bolts down this little hole, and so I had to use this magnet to grab them out. But basically, today's modification has to do with, getting rid of that thing. So I guess when I had Ducati install this plate mount on this bike, because I was too busy at the time with school, now that I actually have the time, I can work on my bikes myself again. It seemed that Ducati super glued, I gotta get my flashlight on this. Ducati super glued the tape, the plate light to the back of the bike. There we go. No more plate. And just like that, boys, let's get these tools away because she's looking fresh and spiffy.
Cold start on a 2025 Yamaha R6. It's always so depressing. That's about as much acceleration that we're gonna be able to get in this neighborhood. I was really looking forward to riding the R6 today, but something came up that kind of interrupted that plan. Out of every single bike that I own, I really hope that you guys didn't think I was gonna sell the R6. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen financial reasons, we have to sell one of my bikes. I, of course, assume that you guys didn't think it was going to be the R6 because we just got it. We just got this bike fully street legal. It happens to be probably, it tops the list as my favorite motorcycle that I own now. Despite the fact that it's not my most powerful motorcycle, I've come to fall in love with the R6 as I've been riding it around. Riding this bike around has made me realize how much I enjoy riding these bikes, but I don't enjoy how much power that they make. The V4 and the H2, they just make too much power. Despite the fact that I thought I was ready to handle these bikes, I think I might have gotten a bit ahead of myself. I don't think I necessarily was ready to upgrade to a 1000cc when I did. I want you guys to realize that is a really hard thing to admit. My ego does not want me to say that. My 23-year-old brain is like, no, I can handle a 1000cc bike. I know what I'm doing. And these bikes, especially because these bikes are both well over 200 horsepower, they're in a class of their own. They're hyper bikes. I do not possess the skill, nor do 99% of people, I would dare to say, possess the skill to be able to handle these bikes. I think that one day I should be able to handle one of these bikes just fine. Do I think that I can continue to ride one of these bikes and probably be fine? Yeah, as long as I control myself. I get, it's a story as old as time. An idiot kid buys a bike that he can't handle too much and it's too much for him and then he wrecks and yada yada yada. But I've been there, done that, and I don't plan on going there again. So I actually have been riding pretty reasonably for, my age, but I really enjoy riding these 1000cc bikes because they feel so special. Like the V4 redlines at like 14,500 RPM. The H2 has a supercharger. Both of these bikes are very special. The problem is they don't make a lot of middleweights that are special. And that's where the R6 comes in. The R6 is the special middleweight. It's a bike that only makes 120 horsepower. This is a bike that that is within my skill range. I can handle this bike just fine. It doesn't scare me. But yet it still redlines at 16,500 RPMs. It's still exciting to ride. Even though I was talking about selling the H2 just a little bit ago, it's my most expensive motorcycle by far. I've had a lot of offers on this motorcycle. It's a bike that it's not mass produced. You can't just go out and buy one, which is part of the reason why I want to continue to own it, because I'm worried if I sell it, I won't be able to get another one. It was my dream bike for a while. I finally got it, and I feel like if I sell this bike, I'm eventually going to want to buy another one again. So it's just a lose-lose situation, and this is mine. This is my H2. I don't want to sell it. That leaves me with one last little bike here. This is my Yamaha MT-07, and unfortunately, this is the bike I have chosen to sell. That's right. Unfortunately, we are selling the Yamaha MT-07. I have a couple reasons why I want to sell my MT-07. But first, I want to head off to the dealership to make sure that we're getting a fair value for my MT-07. So, Clint, why did I come to Ducati Cleveland again? Well, first of all, I want to get an appraisal for the Yamaha MT-07. I want to see what I would get on a trade value, because getting a good trade value means that you can probably get a lot more for it on the market. So this is informational, period. This is what we're trying to gather some information. And also, the second reason for why I'm selling my MT-07 is also right here, so I thought that would be pretty convenient as well. So this is why you come and get an education on your motorcycles, because I learned something today. My MT-07 is worth way more than I thought it was. I thought it was worth around $5,000 for a trade-in, and check this out. Ducati Cleveland got me at $67.65 for a clean trade-in on a 2022 Yamaha MT-07. Now, I don't know if mine necessarily classifies as clean, but I do have a couple of mods on my bike. Well, dude, that's awesome. We now know that this bike is worth way more than I thought it was worth originally. Up to $6,700 for a clean trade. Yeah, we're definitely going to have to do some negotiation. So as I mentioned, the 698 is actually one of the main reasons why I'm contemplating selling my MT-07. I've been talking about this for a while, but it's actually kind of a funny story if you back up a little bit. So I used to own a different Ducati 698. I used to own the one with the graphics and stuff, like the pre-installed graphics, not all this extra fancy stuff. I had sold that bike originally after only, what, like 1,800 miles because I wanted this bike. The 698 is a very, if you don't know what you're getting into, it's actually kind of a weird motorcycle. It rides like a super sport bike where it makes all of its power up top. It redlines at like 10,500 RPM. It's a very peaky motorcycle. You have to really rev it out in order to make any kind of power. It's a very weird bike, but the advantage to it is it weighs 70 pounds less than this. It also has a way higher ground clearance. It's a lot easier to take this bike out and do weird stuff with it than it is that bike. The disadvantage is this bike costs nearly double of what this bike costs. So for the majority of last year, I stuck with only the MT-07. I learned how to wheelie this bike for the first time. It is the bike that I first learned how to feel comfortable with my wheel up in the air. But as my skills started to develop a little bit, and as I've like became a better of a rider, a better like little stunter, little stunt guy, not saying I'm a stunter, but like, you know, I was learning. I realized the limitations of the MT-07, and I slowly moved back to a 698. That's when I bought another one of these bikes, and ever since then, I've been mastering, getting much better at wheelies on this bike than the 07. And that has been the one main scary thing about learning and mastering wheelies on this motorcycle. The fact that it has ABS. I know you guys can't feel what I just did there, but you can't lock up the rear wheel on this bike, and there's no way to turn it off. Yep, there's no way to slide this bike out. On modern motorcycles like my 698 that has a plethora of electronics, there's a little setting in the menus that you can just turn off rear ABS if you want to, and even front ABS. What that allows you to do is when you're up in a wheelie, you're supposed to be tapping your rear brake to control the wheelie. But because of the ABS system on this bike, when the wheel is up in the air and you're tapping the rear brake, the bike freaks the out. It doesn't know what you're doing, and so it just starts spamming ABS, and all of a sudden you're either looping the bike or you're slamming it down. Luckily I haven't looped it yet, but if I continue to do that, if I continue to ride this bike the way that I am and trying to wheelie it the way that I am, it's eventually going to loop, and I'm going to get severely hurt because of it. Now, if you could just simply turn off their ABS, this would not be an issue at all. That person has a little gas cap open. I want to close it so bad, but I don't think I'm going to have an opportunity to. Now, if this bike had a way you could just toggle rear ABS off, like a lot of bikes that have ABS, then we wouldn't be having this discussion. But I think because this bike was made so cheap, it doesn't have that option. And so the only way you could turn off ABS is by ripping it out of the bike, which is not only time consuming, potentially expensive if you get somebody else to do it, but it's also just not something I'm comfortable doing. I ride a lot on the street. I ride this bike primarily on the street. It has never seen a track. And so I don't want to rip ABS completely out of this bike because I like having front ABS. Yes, you could make the argument that you can stop quicker with ABS in pretty much every case, except for when there's gravel, and unfortunately because I live in Ohio, there's a lot of gravel around where I live. I can't tell you how many times that having front ABS has saved my life. You know, a car pulls out in front of you and the ground's a little gravelly. It's nice to have the ABS to keep you upright. And I don't think this is the only way that I've outgrown this motorcycle. If you guys have been watching my past videos, I've actually scraped the bottom of this bike before, which is really stupid. The way I ride this bike and the situations that I take it out in, unfortunately, I think the 698 just happens to fit it a lot better. Not to mention, this bike is a little bit sketchy to ride hard. I mean, look at the suspension. You can just rock this bike back and forth. There's no problem. It's a little bit of a pogo stick. It's not all that bad, though. When I've complained about this bike in the past, people always get upset. They're like, you're getting mad at a bike that only costs $6,000 or whatever. You're getting mad at a cheap bike. Sorry, it's not one of your $30,000 bikes. Okay, let's talk about some of the good things about this motorcycle. First of all, is that sound, baby. Oh, the torque. The instantaneous torque everywhere on the rev range on this motorcycle. Now, I don't know if this case has to be made for this motorcycle. I think this motorcycle is kind of famous for how well it does certain things, but just a case in point.
I hate the stupid alarm. What is going on? I mean, I've owned 2 MT-07s. I never buy 2 motorcycles twice. It probably won't be the last one I ever own, but it's going to come down to really a financial issue. Owning this bike and the 698 and all my other bikes has not really been a problem, but I don't have enough space for 6 motorcycles. 5 is already kind of ridiculous, and as much as I don't want to sell this bike, I'm kind of running out of options. I don't want to sell the V4, I don't want to sell the H2, I don't want to sell the R6, mainly because those bikes give me so much joy whenever I'm riding them. The 698 is so much of a tool that it's teaching me how to ride hard. The 07, while it's like probably my most comfortable bike to fit a passenger on, doesn't serve any other purpose besides that. So I'm left with a little bit of an impasse. I don't want to sell it, But at the same time, there's another bike that's coming out that I really want. As much as I don't want to sell the MT-07, as much as I love looking down at the screen and just knowing that it's going to be a nice, cheap ride, I can't afford all of that, man. I can't afford the space. I can't afford all these different bikes.
Now, I don't want to give away too much of what the next bike is going to be, but I feel like a majority of you can probably already guess. I always had it in my head. I'm like, oh, I'll just add to the fleet. You know, I'll have 6 bikes, but dude, I can't own 6 motorcycles. 5 is already ridiculous. I've fallen in love with too many of these bikes, man. I can't keep just buying more of them. This isn't a motorcycle collection page, though. That's never what it was meant to be. I can't compete with the likes of people like Amk, brother. I can't get my hands on an Accentra. I can't get an H2R. It's not... they don't fit my riding style. They don't fit the area in which I live in. Every speed limit around here is 35, brother. I can't go that fast. And so I'm left with the desire for just the perfect motorcycle lineup. What can I do to get the perfect motorcycle lineup? A bike for everything. And I'm starting to fall in love with these middleweights a bit more, man. And despite the MT-07 being a fantastic middleweight, it just has a couple of flaws that need to be addressed with a better motorcycle. So I'm actually here to go see Eve for a little bit, so might have to hang up the camera just for a second. Eve was asking me for some flowers, and I'm like, oh man, Eve, I gotta save up for a motorcycle. I can't afford flowers. $15 flowers or another, $12,000, $15,000. I don't want to give anything away. Or another very expensive motorcycle. How about that? Of course we're going to save up for another motorcycle. That'd be crazy if I didn't. I think I should go without saying it. This is kind of the best starter bike of all time, too. The fact I could be riding for 5-6 years now, and I can still extract a lot of fun out of this bike to the point that I'm sad that I'm going to be getting rid of it. I think it's a sign that Yamaha built a really good motorcycle here. And instead of being sad that I'm going to be selling this lovely bike, and I know a lot of people are going to be disappointed because they like seeing this bike because it's an attainable dream bike. It's a bike that you can buy, do everything. An expensive motorcycle like a GS 1300, a sport bike, you can do all of that stuff. You can wheelie it, you can take it on adventures, and you can do all that stuff for really cheap. Tires are cheap. Oil changes are cheap on this bike. Everything you can do easily yourself. Valve services, I think, are every like 28,000 miles. There's no stupid Desmo valves or anything that you have to do special on this bike. Everything is just super self-explanatory. So instead of being sad that we're getting rid of this bike, let's celebrate. I'm celebrating that someone else is going to be able to get their hands on this motorcycle. This little 2-cylinder. I love this bike, man. It's so hard letting go of so many memories. This is usually the part in the vlog where I try to include some sort of clip of me ripping on it or like treating this bike the way it wants to be treated, but the issue is this is the way that this bike wants to be treated. It's a little commuter with a little bit of spirit to it, and therein lies the reason of why I kind of feel myself pulling away from this bike. When you compare this to every other bike that I own, it's slow, it's comfortable. My other bikes are very uncomfortable. They're singular purpose. They're designed to do one thing and one thing very well. And so this bike has become a bit of a temptress. It's the bike that I look at in my garage that I have to resist every time I want to go out riding, because it's easy to hop on this bike and be comfortable and ride for 8 hours at a time and be like, oh yeah, I can do this all day. I look for excitement in my lineup. I look for reasons to hop on a bike and enjoy a ride on 8 hours, not just to make it uncomfortable. In a vacuum, this bike is fantastic. But unfortunately, it just doesn't exist in that anymore. I gotta be honest, I don't want to do this. ABS is still on this bike, but I guess whatever. Yep, it's so scary on this bike, dude. Thought Ticket does not endorse that type of behavior. Please make sure you are under the observation of a professional at all times on a closed course while wearing proper safety protection. Of course. My point is, it's a good motorcycle. Please don't misinterpret my words at all. It's just, I've outgrown it. Alright, well, I wanted to come back and grab the good motorcycle. Not necessarily the good one. These two bikes fantastically illustrate my point about this bike. On one hand, you have a completely unreasonable, a bike that has zero torque, a bike that shouldn't be fun on the road, gets hot when you sit in traffic. Overall, it's extremely uncomfortable and is hard on your wrists when you're riding it. And on the other hand, you have the bike that is perfectly reasonable, perfectly comfortable, takes a passenger perfectly fine, super easy maintenance. Everything's just super easy on this bike. But as I grow as a rider, as I grow as a person, as bikes become more and more integral and important in my life, it's the reasonable stuff that just doesn't interest me anymore. And it's on top of the fact that I can't afford all these different bikes at the exact same time because I don't have enough space for them. I'm not going to get another storage unit. We're done. 5 bikes is the max. So we have to say goodbye to something. And This just happens to be it. With all that being said, maybe we'll come back to an MT-07 in the future. I have a lot to say about the future bike that's coming in next week, and I think you guys are going to enjoy my opinions on it too, especially considering the other bike that I have in my lineup. Make sure you guys stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.